Elana Fric was born in 1977 in the city of Windsor in Canada. She was the daughter of Joseph and Anna Fric and had an older sister named Carolyn. Her parents were originally from Croatia and moved to Canada in the 1960s to work for General Motors. After Elana's sister Carolyn was born in 1970, her parents lost two unborn babies. Doctors even told the couple that because of this, they couldn't have more children. However, in 1977, Elana was born, which was considered a miracle by her parents. Later, the family moved from Windsor to the town of Tecumseh in southwestern Ontario, Canada. It was in this town that Elana grew up. As a child, Elana was described as a precocious child who spent most of her free time reading. She studied at St. Peter's Elementary and St. Anne High School. In the latter, Elana practiced Croatian dancing and worked in the cornfields outside the city every summer. She also enjoyed sports and was even part of the school's track team. Still at school, Elana met a boy named Matthew Renaud, with whom she fell in love, and soon the two began dating. It is said that they were very close and did almost everything together. It was common for the couple to have dinner at each other's house in the presence of their parents, something very traditional at the time. The two shared some taste in music, and in the 90s they were fulfilled their dream of going to a Nirvana concert, their favorite band. At the same time, they suffered a serious car accident that overturned 5 times, but by a miracle, they managed to get out of what was left of the vehicle unharmed. To the couple's family and close friends, they had a connection. They seemed like they were made for each other, and everyone thought they would get married and spend their lives together. Elana and Matthew remained together the entire time they studied at the University of Windsor. Later, in 1999, Elana began to study medicine at the University of Ottawa in the capital, while Matthew remained in the same city where they lived. For the first time since they started dating, the couple stayed away from each other. They continued their long-distance relationship and even got engaged, but for some reason, I couldn't find why, Elana decided to break off the engagement and the two separate. She then began to dedicate herself even more to her studies. Since a very young age, Elana had the dream of becoming a doctor, a dream that intensified after she worked for a while in the same factory where her parents worked. There, she saw how heavy their routine was and even went so far as to say she didn't know how they endured. From then on, Elana decided that she would dedicate herself even more to her studies to guarantee a good job with a good salary and that was not as exhausting as her parents' work. One night in 2003, Elana was playing pool in the recreation room at the Ottawa hospital where she was a resident. That's when a man who was a neurosurgery resident saw her across the room and asked some nurses who she was. That man was Mohammed Shamji. Mohammed was considered a medical prodigy, the son of a renowned thoracic surgeon named Dr. Farid Shamji, who even received an award in his honor from the Department of Surgery at the University of Ottawa, something that is only given to the best doctors. From a wealthy family, Mohammed belonged to the elite of Ottawa. During his life, he studied at the best colleges in the country and had the goal of following in his father's footsteps to build a brilliant career in medicine. He was described by people close to him as shy, reserved, and very hardworking. To get closer to Elana, Mohammed started playing pool with her in the hospital, and after a while, he asked her out. It is said that Elana was madly in love with him. Everything about him impressed her: his intelligence, his ambitions, and the fact that he had studied in the best schools in the country. Elana loved spending hours talking to Mohammed about his experiences. But despite being madly in love, deep down she felt that she was not worthy of his love because she felt that she was not up to par. The two began a relationship, but Mohammed didn't take the relationship as seriously as Elana did. As she showered him with gifts, Mohammed barely made an effort to please her. He didn't even show up to her medical school graduation, claiming he was sick, but she later found out he was actually out with friends. And as if that behavior wasn't enough, he still went out with another woman he knew from college, even though he was dating Elana. Mohammed wasn't charming and much less handsome, but he belonged to one of the richest and most renowned families in the capital, and because of that, he had no lack of suitors. Tired, Elana ended the relationship twice, but both, Mohammed convinced her to come back and they continued the relationship. According to a close friend, Mohammed was always trying to exert control over his girlfriend. In April 2004, Elana introduced Mohammed to her parents. It is said that Joseph and Elana Fric were not impressed with their daughter's new boyfriend. They even found him aloof and a bit antisocial. Mohammed barely spoke to them and seemed to have no interest in interacting with his in-laws. Joseph even told his daughter not to settle for someone like Mohammed and that she could get someone better. In the morning, Anna heard Elana and Mohammed arguing. When she went to the couple and asked what was going on, Elana replied crying that she just hadn't slept well. Anna then laughed and left her daughter and boyfriend alone. For her, that was just a harmless couple's fight. A few months later, Elana found out she was pregnant and Mohammed found himself in a complicated situation. His parents are Ismaili Muslims and would be furious if he had a child before marriage. He was also afraid to tell his parents that he intended to marry Elana, as they expected their son to marry someone of the same faith as himself. Ultimately, Mohammed decided that the marriage was the lesser evil, so he and Elana began to plan the wedding. Actually, 2 weddings, one to please Mohammed's parents and one to please Elana's parents. They held a traditional Ismaili wedding on September 1, 2004 in Ottawa. By this time, Elana was nearly 5 months pregnant. As it was a traditional Ismaili wedding, the consumption of alcoholic beverages was prohibited, although some guests drank hidden in the parking lot. In the ceremony, the class division between the guests of the bride and groom was clear. Elana's guests were mostly working-class relatives, while Mohammed's were prominent members of the medical community. As is customary with Muslim brides, Elana's hands were tattooed with ornate henna, and this kind of upset her Christian mother. Before their second wedding in a Catholic church, Elana and Mohammed had to undergo several counseling sessions. Mohammed refused to go to those sessions and asked John Mark, a friend of the couple, to go in his place, but John also refused. Despite this refusal and Mohammed's indifferent behavior, the couple got married at St. Francis of Assisi Church in Windsor, the same church where Elana was baptized and received her first communion. Compared to their first wedding, this one was small and there were few guests. Elana bought elbow-length white gloves to cover up the henna tattoos that still hadn't come off. After the ceremony, the couple took a limousine and drove to the Caesars Hotel and Casino, where they spent part of their honeymoon. Later, they bought a house in Ottawa where they moved. Elana began working as a family doctor at the Ottawa Hospital, while Mohammed continued in neurosurgery. After a difficult pregnancy, she gave birth to a baby girl in January 2005. Elana was delighted with her baby, while Mohammed remained distant and indifferent. Some people even said that he was obsessed with work and didn't seem to care much about his family. When Mohammed returned from the hospital, he would go straight upstairs to continue his studies, barely speaking to his wife or paying attention to their daughter. A few weeks after the baby was born, Mohammed's family came to visit him. Elana was on the top floor of the residence breastfeeding the child when they arrived, and because of that, she didn't come down to assist them. Mohammed was furious with his wife. He later cursed Elana and told her that it was her duty to greet guests in front door as a gesture of deference and respect. A few days later, Elana told her parents that she felt like she had to walk on eggshells in her own home because of Mohammed's behavior. As time went by, the relationship between the couple became increasingly difficult. Mohammed, in addition to controlling behavior, began to have moments of anger, most of the time for no reason. Elana hardly spoke about it to a friend or a family member. According to people close to her, she was too discreet and proud of that. It is also said that he ridiculed her for gaining weight and said that her food was rubbish. A month after the baby was born, Mohammed called Elana's parents in a panic, saying that she wanted a divorce. Elana took the phone from him and told her parents not to worry, it was nothing, and hung up. Not long after that, when her parents were getting ready to go to church one Sunday, they got a phone call they couldn't answer in time. They then used the phone's function to place a call to the last number that had called them. The missed call came from Elana's house, who answered the phone and said it was nothing. But when it was time to hang up, she didn't hang up correctly, and her parents on the other end of the line could hear an enraged Mohammed cursing his wife about everything. In the spring of 2005, Mohammed was accepted into a prestigious doctoral program in biomedical engineering at Duke University in the United States. Elana decided to take advantage of the opportunity and signed up for a master's degree in public policy at the same university. The couple had plans to move to the United States in the fall. However, a few days before the move, the couple had an ugly argument and Mohammed went after Elana and attacked her. Afraid, Elana took her daughter and hid in a friend's apartment. Mohammed, not knowing where his wife was, started calling all of her mutual friends until he found her. After 3 days, he managed to find her and told her that she could go home and that he would stay at his parents' house. She agreed to return, but was still so afraid of her husband that she asked John Mark, a friend of the couple, to stay close to protect her until her parents arrived in town. Mohammed ended up facing 3 criminal charges, 1 of assault against Elana and 2 of making threats. As a result, he was booked by the police and could no longer cross the border to the United States and do his PhD at Duke University. He still ran the risk of never being able to practice the medical profession again. To save his career, Mohammed had to reconcile with Elana. A few weeks later, Elana and her family baptized their daughter in a church in Windsor. At the after party, the guest asked her why Mohammed didn't attend. She told a few people that he was working, but confided into her cousin Rob that they had a huge falling out. Rob said that she didn't need to be with Mohammed, that she could find someone who really loved her. Elana told him that she and Mohammed would work it out and he didn't need to worry. On July 27, 2005, authorities agreed to drop criminal charges against Mohammed if he entered into peace bond. He also had to acknowledge that his wife had reasonable grounds to fear that he would harm her and agreed to 12 months probation. Everything was resolved just in time for Mohammed to begin his PhD in the United States. And with the charges dropped, he was able to cross the border without any problems. In the United States, Mohammed settled in the city of Durham in North Carolina, which is where Duke University is located. Elana and her daughter joined him a few months later. Her family couldn't understand why she had returned to him. According to them, Elana was intelligent, educated, financially independent, and had a full support of her family. She didn't need him. Some friends believed that she was driven by ambition, enjoying the status she had alongside Mohammed. Others, on the other hand, believed that she really loved him and was quite optimistic, convincing herself that things would get better. In Durham, North Carolina, the couple set up a routine. They started running marathons together and used to wake up very early, even before dawn, to train. After that, Elana dropped her daughter off at daycare, and then she and Mohammed were off to Duke University. Mohammed excelled in his department. He completed his PhD, which was supposed to be a 5-year one, in just 3.5 years. Elana also stood out. She won a rare scholarship that paid most of the tuition and was considered the head of her class. After class, Elana would pick up Mohammed and the baby and go home to cook dinner. It was like that almost every day. Almost 2 years later, in 2007, Elana became pregnant again. She gave birth to the couple's second daughter in November of the same year. Friends of the couple found a certain imbalance in their marriage strange. It was Elana who drove and took Mohammed everywhere he needed to go. When a friend of hers named Valentina Nikolova asked her about it, she only said that Mohammed didn't like to drive. But that wasn't the only thing that made the marriage unbalanced in the eyes of close friends. Elana was practically responsible for everything, from grocery shopping to furniture assembly and light bulb replacement. She always told the couple's friends how brilliant Mohammed was and that she was nothing compared to him. The couple's friends found it strange, as they saw her as someone who had complete control of the relationship, as if she were her husband's superior. When she was with Mohammed, Elana always asked him for permission regarding anything, being extremely submissive to him. And when she was with other people, Mohammed called several times demanding to know who she was with and what she was doing. Normally, Elana was always seen happy and smiling and never complained about her marriage. However, her friend Valentina reported that she once found her crying, and Elana told her that their relationship was not what people thought. In 2009, Elana and Mohammed returned to Ottawa, Canada, after completing their studies at Duke University in the United States. In Ottawa, they moved to a house close to the hospital where they started to work. Elana started working as a family doctor and was well liked by her patients. Mohammed, on the other hand, continued his specialization in neurosurgery, even winning an award for taking good care of his patients. Around the same time, the couple became active on social media. They portrayed themselves as a wealthy couple who loved fun and were blessed with beautiful children, showering them with gifts. However, to close friends, Elana admitted that Mohammed exercised complete control over her social media. He made her harass people he didn't approve of and select which photos she should post. He was also extremely controlling at home, to the point where she had to ask permission to subscribe to a newspaper she liked, which he still denied her. His exaggerated control extended to his daughters. He didn't allow them to play with children who didn't meet his standards. In short, he didn't like the poor. In addition to all this, Mohammed used to call Elana stupid and useless, and also said that he should have left her and that he would have been much better off without her. In 2011, Mohammed went to the city of Calgary, where he stayed for a year to do his specialization in spinal surgery. Elana soon discovered that he was having an affair with a woman in town. She found emails confirming the affair and a credit card payment from Mohammed at a place he stayed with his mistress in Calgary on Mother's Day. When Elana confronted him, he didn't deny it. She was devastated and her friends urged her to finally leave him, but despite everything, she wouldn't do that. Elana wanted his approval, wanted to prove that she was equal to her husband and worthy of his love. She found that she had already invested a lot in their relationship. They had a life together, 2 children, and a home. Elana still loved him and desperately wanted him to love her back. Afterwards, Mohammed promised Elana that he would end the affair with his mistress, and he did. Shortly thereafter, he landed his dream job as a surgeon on the neurosurgical staff at Toronto Western Hospital. He and Elana began planning their move to Toronto, which meant that she would have to quit her job in Ottawa. Decided, they moved and bought a huge house in North York valued at $1,500,000 Canadian dollars. Later, Elana got a job at a clinic called Uhofcontact, but according to friends, she wasn't very excited about her new job. Elana told them that she had studied a lot, gained a lot of knowledge, and believed that she could do more than just treat sore throats. After the couple had settled in their new home, Mohammed suggested to Elana that they have another child. He told her they had 4 rooms and one was empty, waiting to be filled. And this time, Mohammed wanted a boy. Elana complied with her husband's request, and within a few months she became pregnant and had a boy. She hoped that the birth of this child would represent the rebirth of her marriage. The couple's son was born in October 2013. After that, their relationship was smoother for almost 2 years. During that time, Allison Kaufman, Elana's boss at the Uhofcontact clinic, bought a house across the street from the couple's home. The 2 women became close and developed a great friendship. The couple's daughters were thriving at private school, and Mohammed was very busy with his work. At Toronto Western, he gained a reputation as a miracle worker due to his success with even the most complex surgeries. In 2015, Elana left her job at the clinic to work in the family medicine unit at Scarborough Hospital. She also got a job as a delegate for District 11 of the Ontario Medical Association. Elana was again growing professionally. Mohammed was not happy about it, and tensions between the couple returned. In March 2016, the couple took a family trip to Vermont in the United States. Earlier, they passed through Ottawa to leave their youngest son with Mohammed's parents. That night, Mohammed called Elana's parents and told them that Elana had cut her right palm badly and was in the hospital for surgery. Elana told medics that she had injured herself by accident after hitting a glass on the counter and it shattering. But to someone else, she said she cut her hand while chopping vegetables, and to a friend she said a glass broke while she was washing dishes. It was clear that none of these versions are true, and certainly Elana's injury was not accidental, and this would be the beginning of something much worse. In Vermont, the couple began to argue about Mohammed's mistress in Calgary. Annoyed, Mohammed said that his ex-lover was much better than her and then tried to smother Elana. Later, Elana told friends about this episode and said that the only reason she didn't report Mohammed in Vermont was because she was worried about what the Americans would do to a man named Mohammed. During the summer of 2016, the couple's relationship fluctuated between chaos and calm. Their youngest son stayed with Elana's parents for a few weeks while the girls were away at the summer camp in Ottawa. Mohammed was on vacation, so he and Elana were home alone. In their social media, the couple continued to exhibit a happy and flawless life. The two started practicing jiu-jitsu together, and Elana posted a photo of Mohammed in his IG with the caption, "Dr. Mohammed can break you and then fix you." A few months later, they celebrated their 12th and last wedding anniversary. Elana gave Mohammed a card on which she wrote, "My dear Mohammed, I love you with all my heart. 12 years, 3 kids, 4 cities, 2 countries, and a lifetime of memories. Can't wait for the next 50 years." But the truth, as you might have guessed by now, was that their marriage was doomed to ruin. Not only ruin, but also tragedy. Still in 2016, Elana started talking to Mohammed about the divorce. Mohammed panicked and begged her to think better. She agreed but was not at peace as she suspected that Mohammed had another mistress. When she told her friends about her suspicions, one of them joked that she too should have a lover. And that's what she did. She met another doctor who was also married with children. He treated her well and made her feel desirable again. She later told a friend that it was the first time she had felt a bit of happiness since marrying Mohammed. Elana's lover encouraged her to leave Mohammed. He told her it was time to start imagining a life without her husband. Elana then went to her lawyer to prepare the divorce papers. She told him something that she hadn't told anyone. She said that on a day in the month of October, Mohammed violently assaulted her. Elana could no longer tolerate violence in her home. If her children had been one of the reasons she wanted to make her marriage work before, now she decided she needed to leave him for them. At the end of November, she finally filed for divorce. Mohammed bought her a giant box of chocolates to try to convince her to stay. She sent an email to a friend on Thursday, November 24th, which read, "Sorry I've been so absent the last few months. I'm in the process of separating from my husband, and things at home are chaotic. I will try to contact you this weekend. I'll be away at a conference." On Friday, Elana left for an OMA meeting that lasted until Sunday night. She spoke on panels, connected and socialized, all without Mohammed, who texted her over the weekend, playing the supportive husband. When she returned home from the conference on Sunday, she told those closest to her that she had hired a lawyer and had filed divorce papers with Mohammed. Her attorney wrote to him on Monday stating that Elana's preference was to try to resolve all matters amicably and speedily, and notifying him that she required his full financial disclosure. At home, Elana moved to the basement, but Mohammed kept taking her things back to her room. On Wednesday night, her mother called while Elana was bathing the baby. She said she needed to get off the phone quickly and her mother told her to be careful. "He won't do anything stupid," Elana said. The next day, December 1st, 2016, Elana's family tried to contact her all day but without success. They then called Mohammed's personal phone and asked him where she was. Mohammed stammered and said that Elana had gone out for the night with a suitcase and her boyfriend. Her mother was desperate. She knew that her daughter would never leave, leaving her children behind. The woman then got in touch via social media with Allison Kaufman, Elana's former boss and next-door neighbor, and asked her to check the house to see if Elana really wasn't there. Allison went to the house and peeked into the garage and saw that Elana's Honda Pilot was still in the driveway. She let Elana's parents know about this, who called the police and drove overnight from Windsor to Toronto. The police quickly went to the couple's house. They were attended by Mohammed, who questioned, said that Elana left the house with a suitcase and her boyfriend. As per protocol, the officers entered the residence and searched for any evidence that might indicate Elana's possible whereabouts, but found nothing. The police officers withdrew and informed the other agents about Elana's possible disappearance. Around 5 a.m. on December 2nd, Elana's parents arrived at their house. They immediately noticed that 2 rugs from the main floor were missing. Elana Fric, Elana's mother, started to wash the dishes and prepared crepes for her grandchildren. Mohammed stayed in the room on the phone for a long time. Then Elana's two daughters went downstairs and sat down at the table in silence with their heads down. Afterwards, Mohammed also went downstairs and entered the kitchen saying, "So you were the ones who called the police?" Then he asked, "Are there any more of those crepes?" He didn't seem to be the least bit concerned that his wife had left with her lover. Something very strange, since every time she brought up the subject of divorce, he panicked. Mohammed obviously knew and was hiding something that was terrible. On the afternoon of December 2nd, 2016, police found a woman's body inside a suitcase beside the Humber River in Kleberg. The victim was barefoot, wearing pajamas, and most of her hair had been shaved off. Forensic analysis revealed that she had been assaulted, causing blunt force trauma, and was subsequently suffocated. The police took pictures of the body and then took it to Elana's parents for possible identification. However, her mother was not able to recognize her, saying that this was not her daughter. That's because in addition to having a shaved head, Elana had a very swollen face, changing her features. But Elana's father, Joseph Fric, identified her. Crying, he said, "That's my daughter." After a quick investigation, the police concluded that all the evidence pointed to a single suspect, Mohammed Shamji. He was arrested the next day at a coffee shop after two plainclothes officers approached him at a table and handcuffed him. The police later discovered that the last call she made on the day of the crime was on the number 611. According to them, she was trying to dial 911, which is the emergency number in Canada, to ask for help, but Mohammed must have stopped her before she could. The police also discovered that Mohammed took the life of his wife with all the children in the house. The eldest daughter of the couple reported that she was in the room when she heard Elana's screams and was very scared, as she thought it was some invader who was harming her mother and would later go after her and her brothers. She further said that afterwards the screams stopped, she got up and went to her parents' room. There, she saw her father face down on the bed, but she couldn't see what he was doing, and when he saw her, he told her to go back to her room, and she obeyed. The crime, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, reverberated across Canada. It was widely covered and publicized by the media. The wealthy couple of doctors, apparently with a perfect and happy life, were at the center of a story that culminated in an unexpected crime. Elana's funeral was held on December 17 at St. Francis of Assisi Church in Windsor, the same church where she was baptized and later married the man who would take her life. While awaiting Mohammed's trial, Joseph and Elana Fric moved into their daughter's house so that Elana's children would not have to move to another city and therefore a school at such a difficult time. The eldest daughter, almost 12 years old at the time, covered the entire wall of her room with pictures of her mother to try to alleviate the lack a little. One morning, Elana's parents and daughters were gathered downstairs in the house. That's when they heard her youngest son, then 3 years old, laughing in his room. They then went upstairs to see what was going on, and found the boy standing on his bed, smiling, saying that his mother was kissing him. Some believed that the boy was just dreaming, others that Elana was really there in spirit. In May 2019, more than 2 years after the crime, Mohammed Shamji pleaded guilty to the crime as a part of an agreement with the prosecution. Because of that agreement, he didn't have to sit in the dock in court of law. He was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for the next 14 years. There was widespread media coverage of his conviction, and the eyes of millions of Canadians were on Mohammed. Elana's eldest daughter said that she hates her father for what he did, and that it will be difficult for her to forgive him one day. Today, she, her sister, and younger brother live with her maternal grandparents in Windsor. It is said that they often talk about their mother, but they don't say a single word about their father. Alright folks, that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching until the end. Best wishes, and I see you next time.